Welcome everyone to the Game Disc Podcast, where every week we discuss the past, present, and future of the video game industry. I'm your host, Simon Esty, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Noah Esty.
And today we're talking about Sony's State of Play and the bomb that detonated in a supervillain's head that was Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Then, for our top 100 games of all time discussion, we're diving into Doom 2016. Is it one of the best games ever made? We will find out, but first, Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Simon. Nothing too special happened, but it's raining a bit. But what about you?
Yeah, it's funny. When we got online, I was like, I hope that everything goes okay, because it's storming really bad. And you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of raining for us too. And I said, no, it's not raining for us. It is storming for us. Like, branches in the road, fences have fallen down, mine included. It's a mess out there in California on Sunday night. But otherwise, I'm okay. My neighbors were cool about the fence falling down, so we'll figure that out. But other than that, nothing too exciting here. I will say, though, that because of, I think, the storm, we do have spotty internet connection, so there may be some delay in, like, Noah and I talking. It seems like there might be some issues, but hopefully we can at least get through this, because, boy, was it a week. Because Sony had a State of Play, which is always big for news. I'm just going right into it, because we got a lot to do, and I don't know how long I'm going to have power/internet.
Yeah, just halfway through the podcast, your entire internet's just gonna shut down. I mean, we did talk about doing the podcast with carrier pigeons one of these days, so yeah, now would be the perfect time to do it. It's just like a lightning bolt hits your house, and then you're like, oh, snap, I need the carrier pigeon. And then you go, you tie the message, you send it, and then a lightning bolt hits it.
Yeah, I like how it's like, I'm just going to dive into it, and you're like, and I'm going to take us on a segue instead. So...
Mm-hmm. I mean, right. To be fair, you don't go to podcasts to hear people talk about, like, news or anything like that. You go for the random side conversations that happen along the way.
You're probably not wrong. So I'm just going to go tear through this State of Play. Noah, you didn't watch it, right? Because you're in Japan, so the timing was a little weird, because it was like 3 o'clock here, so it would have been probably either first thing in the morning or when you were at work. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did not. I was just like, you know what, I'll just catch the highlights, and I was like, okay, this is what they released, got it, nothing really sounds all that interesting to me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. It was, they showed off a lot. Like, there was a lot of games stuffed into that 40 minutes, but for me, there really wasn't anything super exciting either. For me, again, the highlight, as it's been at the last couple of these, was Dragon's Dogma 2, which I think looks great, and every time I see it, looks even better. But I'm just going to go through and kind of go down the list of everything they talked about. And if you want to say anything about it, Noah, you can kind of just say play or pass.
All right, sounds good.
If you got nothing to say. So the first thing that they opened with was Helldivers 2. I didn't really care about anything for this. We got a pretty big gameplay segment at the last State of Play, so this was a little redundant.
Yeah, I'll still say play, because I am interested in Helldivers.
Okay, cool. That's fair. And then, did you want to say anything else about Helldivers, or are you good to go on to the next game?
No, the game's called Play or Pass, not Play or Pass and then talk a little bit about it.
Okay, fair enough. You're right. You're right. You're right. The next thing was Foam Stars launch trailer, and this game's going to be on PS Plus. Even with it on PS Plus, I don't know if I'm going to play it. Maybe I'll try it out. I'll try to try it out.
I think I'll play it a bit.
I'll try to play it with you.
Yeah, I'll play it a bit just because I feel like, you know what? I feel like it might be fun for a afternoon. Don't know if it'll be good, but I think it'll be something like, yeah, okay, that was the game. And then just delete it if I want to play an online game, play the finals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, let me know when you do play Foam Stars. I'll probably hop on with you.
Sounds good.
The next 2 games are VR games. Legendary Tales. Excuse me. Legendary Tales and Metro Awakening VR. Awakening is the next game in the Metro franchise, which is kind of cool. And Legendary Tales is the jankiest fucking game I've ever seen, but it looks so fucking fun. Like, it looks like just a trash fire of a game, but because it's in VR, it might be really cool. I don't.
Well,
what did you see the trailer for it?
No, of course not.
Check it out.
I've never heard of this game before you mentioned it.
I think it had a super fast dev time, and it looks like trash. But like the way it's like a standard like fantasy RPG, it looks like, but it's VR, so all your moves like are done with the controllers. But it's just the way the physics work in the game look ridiculous. Like, it just looks. It looks pretty bad, but it might be really fun in VR to just smash some skeletons around. Watch the trailer and report next week, and you can say what you thought of it.
Well, I mean, I feel like all VR is a little janky. Playing the Resident Evil 4 VR.
Like, no.
And even the Resident Evil 4 VR, I played it and I thought the jank made it super fun. You were just running around, pop a guy in the head, like hit him with the kick thing, just keep running around. Whereas in actual RE4, you run around, you stop, you aim, and then you hit him with the kick. So yeah, VR, it's got jank, but I feel like that is why VR is so fun. They say that every good game has some jank, and the jank is there to keep it humble.
No, this is like, I don't know. This looks like a different level of jank. Just watch the trailer. Watch the trailer and come back next week.
Okay.
It looks okay. Stupid in the best way.
All right.
Zenless Zone Zero, which is a new HoYoverse game. Is HoYoverse the people who make
Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail?
Okay, that's what I thought. When I first saw HoYo, I was thinking it was the Korean people who make like Dokev or whatever. You're gonna play Zenless Zone Zero?
No, and I saw a trailer for Zenless Zone Zero. This was like several weeks ago. I saw it, and it was a trailer that for like a new character. I was like, I've never heard of this game. I'll check it out. And I just watched it, and I was like, this game doesn't look that great, and none of these character designs look interesting at all. But the fact it's HoYoverse, yeah, that makes sense. That explained why there's like all of this intrigue around a trailer for a new character for a game that wasn't out yet.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I watched the trailer, I was like, wow, that looks really generic. And then I saw it was HoYoverse, and I thought, oh,
yeah.
Okay. So pass.
Moving on. Yeah, we'll go with the pass for now.
Okay. Dave the Diver is coming to PS5, and he's going to bring Godzilla with him.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna say pass, but if it ever becomes free on PS Plus, I will definitely play it.
Yeah, I am. I don't really know anything about Dave the Diver except for that it blew up, but I did when the Godzilla song started playing during the State of Play. I was like pretty excited. That was probably actually like the coolest part of the State of Play was just hearing the like Godzilla theme start up. I was like, oh, something Godzilla's coming. Oh, it's Dave the Diver. That's still kind of cool, but the next game is...
Correct me if I'm wrong, real quick. Maybe this is something else you've heard about. Correct me if I'm wrong. Minecraft is also adding Godzilla, right?
That sounds right, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
no,
according to Minecraft.net, Minecraft's Godzilla stomps into Minecraft. So, yeah, I mean, Godzilla, he just comes in and goes... That was not my best roar.
Who's having a bigger moment right now, Taylor Swift or Godzilla?
Probably Godzilla. I mean, Taylor Swift is big, but Godzilla's like several stories tall. Several stories.
I didn't say who was bigger. I said who's having a bigger moment. I think that Taylor Swift is bigger overall. Her moment is bigger, but she was starting from a higher level. I think Godzilla had a bigger blow up percentage wise.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you've seen how many buildings he's destroyed with his laser? Of course he has a bigger blow up.
The next game is V Rising. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Taylor Swift's blown up a lot of buildings too. V Rising, which is a isometric.
And those are only the ones that we know about.
Yeah. V Rising is an isometric RPG. It looks fine. I'm not gonna play it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too convincing, so I'm going to have to add it on to pass.
Okay. Judas. This is the new game by Ken Levine, who is the BioShock guy. This trailer looked cool. It looks a little too similar to BioShock, so it's a little disappointing. But if it's as good as BioShock, it'll be pretty good. So I'm interested in it. I'm not playing or passing on it, but I'll definitely see where it's at.
I'm leaning more towards on the play section just because BioShock was... So the BioShock franchise, different people say different games were the best. Some people say that 2's the best, some people say 1's the best. A lot of people are saying it's 2 now. A lot of the younger generation says it's 2.
Well, the youth don't know what they're talking about.
Well, the thing is, but a majority of people, I believe, consider 3 to be the worst. And so it's like, yeah, that's unfortunate. But we haven't seen anything from Ken Levine or really akin to BioShock lately for the past couple of years. So the fact we're getting more BioShock-like things, that's going to be a major up for me. I am definitely leaning towards play. I'm not going to say for sure play, but if I had to choose between play or pass, right now I'd say play.
Yeah, that's you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I feel exactly the same way. No, you hit the nail on the head.
Well, I mean, you can hit the head on the nail. It would... No, I mean, you said nail on the head. I said head on the nail. They're both similar things. It's like tomato, tomato.
I'll take your word for it. Silent Hill was back.
I'll take my head for that nail.
Silent Hill, the short message got shadow dropped, and then we got a combat trailer for Silent Hill 2. I've downloaded Silent Hill, the short message. I'm waiting for my fiance to get back, and then we're gonna play through it. I heard it's only like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and that I heard it's not great gameplay wise, but the story is actually pretty good. So I'm excited to check it out. Silent Hill 2 looks okay. It kind of just looks like, standard modern survival horror game. They keep all the story stuff intact. It looks like gameplay wise it should be good enough to play, which that's really all they have to do was modernize the gameplay and keep all the other stuff. So I'll probably check it out.
And I mean, it is Blooper Team, so they aren't exactly known for their gameplay. The only third-person game they made was that one for the Xbox One, I believe. It's not The Witness. You know which one I'm talking about. I had the girl, she had like white hair. You know which game I'm talking about, right?
No, I don't think I do, actually.
It was... Hold on, let me find it. It was a game, I believe it was an Xbox exclusive.
You're right, The Medium.
The Medium, that's what it was. Yeah, The Medium. That was like their only third-person game, which
you forgot about it, so I think that says how good it is.
About it was the quality only supposed to be okay.
And that's the thing is, I feel like Blooper Team, maybe they are a very cost-effective developer, and maybe that's why they got the Silent Hill license, because it seems like they made 2 games that were really good, but a majority of their catalog has been a little forgettable.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like I said, I hope this game is good, but if not, the original's still there. Hopefully they remaster that, and because I played the original for the first time a year or so ago, and it holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
Sonic Cross or X Shadow Generations. This is a Sonic Generations remaster, but
this was actually one of the trailers I did watch.
Why was this one of the ones you watched?
Because I was like... So I was just like, oh, Sonic... It's called Sonic Generations Cross Shadow, right? Or is it
Sonic Cross Shadow Generations?
Yeah, so I was just like, "Oh, okay, like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal." And then the more I thought about it was like, "Wait a second. Sonic Generations' entire gimmick is going through every Sonic game and playing it in retro and modernized versions. How are they going to incorporate Shadow into that?"
It's
Because
probably just gonna
Shadow,
be like modern Shadow, and then you can also get a truck and guns.
that's what I was thinking, and I was like, that might actually be kind of cool.
No, from
But
it looks like it's
another
just
thing too,
Sonic.
another thing too that I was thinking of was that might be kind of interesting if Shadow had two gameplay. He had 3D styled Sonic games and then modern Sonic, because modern Sonic does not play like how he did in Adventure 2 or Adventure 1. And so maybe it's like, oh, Shadow's retro version is going to be a gameplay similar to the 3D Sonic games, and then he'll also have a modern mode as well.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I don't think so though. It really just looks like his gameplay is just adventure. Like it's kind of how he played in adventure, which is fine.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
no, you might be right, but I
Like
don't
that's what
know.
I'm saying. Like, because
I,
modern Sonic plays differently
no,
than
I
a
know,
Sonic. Yeah,
but what I'm saying is, I guess yeah, I guess you're right. We might be saying the same thing.
I
I
think
think
so.
but his style looks like it just is similar to how he played in adventure. I don't know if he's gonna have two styles. It looks like he just has.
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
so you think that?
I don't think that
I
he's gonna
think he
have
might
like
have a
boost
modern one.
shadow.
Okay, I could see that, but I could see that Shadow's gameplay being like, hey, here's the 3D era of Sonic games.
I I could also if Sonic Team was smarter. I think that's too good of an idea. I don't know if Sonic Team could think of that.
That's
Um,
fair.
and this is basically just yeah, this is a remaster of Sonic Generations, and then they tacked on some shadow levels at the end. It sounds like, but
Yeah,
yeah. Are you interested in this at all?
I'm leaning towards pass. I was
Yeah,
intrigued, but there's a
uh,
difference between interest and intrigue. I'm leaning towards pass, but I could see
yeah,
myself playing it if the opportunity arises, especially if it is gameplay similar to the adventure series.
yeah. That's kind of how I felt too. I played Generations for the first time a couple of months ago and wasn't super impressed. Everybody talks about it's like one of the
Uh,
best 3D Sonics, and I thought it was just okay.
I did like it a
Uh,
lot. I did like it a lot,
oh
but
yeah, I forgot you played it too. Um,
yep.
and I kind of already talked about this new Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't have much to say about this. The game looks great. I hope it's good. I think it will be.
Yeah,
Definitely going to play that. That was the highlight for me.
yeah, of course. That's just Dragon's Dogma. That's my girlfriend sequel to my girlfriend's favorite game of all time. Something very interested in, but it's one of those things where it's like your mind's not going to change by this point. You either are
Yeah,
excited or you're
either
not.
yeah, no, 100%, and I'm excited.
Hmm.
I think that's actually probably the game I'm like one of the games I'm most excited for.
Yep.
That and like Final Fantasy Rebirth.
Hmm.
Um, and then rounding out kind of the short stuff, Until Dawn remaster. This looks like just a straightforward remaster coming out for PS5 and PC.
Hate that
Uh,
game.
you hate it?
I am so pissed off at that game because I
Um,
should have saved everybody, but I made one choice and I didn't even make it because I felt like it was the right choice. I made it because the person that I was talking to was being a little jerk, and I was like, well, if I disagree with their idea, all that's going to happen is they're just going to yell at me and then we're going to do their idea. And so I agreed with them, and that apparently ended up killing me. And if I disagreed with them, apparently we still would have done their idea, but it would have resulted in my character not dying. And it was like, that's dumb. I knew what was going to happen, except for it was like, oh, but this one aspect of it you didn't know. So, yeah, that was why I hate that game. I should have saved everybody.
yeah, I played with my fiance and we lost one person and it was kind of bullshit too. It was like it was just a quick time event and I hit the button and
Mhm.
like I don't know, the game glitched or lagged or something and it just didn't register the input, but I hit it and like my fiance's like, yeah, you hit it, which sucks, but whatever, it wasn't a huge deal. Yeah, I mean, it's cool for people who want to play this new version. It looks really good, but I probably don't need to play through it again. One time was enough for me.
Yeah,
And then
I will
go
say
ahead.
that it is a game that, yeah, I will say that it's a game that I think if you're interested in it, try it out because it is cool. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely worth playing if you haven't. This is going to be the best way to play it. And then kind of
yeah.
the deeper things that were spent a little bit more time, which I think are kind of the big three of the state of play. Stellar Blade got a deep dive.
Oh,
Did you watch this at
I
all?
like Stella.
Oh my god!
Nah, no, not really. But I like
It.
Stella. She's a
I
good
know.
girl.
That's our dog's name, not my dog's name. Our
Yeah,
mother's
she's a
dog's name.
princess.
She's like
Yeah, she's a good girl.
she's literally like 20 years old. She's going to be 17 this year.
Oh, she's such a
That
good
is
girl.
too old. That is too old
And
for a
she
dog.
doesn't look a day over 5.
No, she looks several days over 17. Anyway, Stellar
In
Blade.
Stellar Blade, do you play as a little dog?
No, you play as like a weeb fantasy, and it looks fine. It looks kind of generic. It looks competently made, but it looks a little generic. And it was kind of funny because they were like, "Here's a deep dive into this game," but it was really nothing we haven't seen before. So
yeah, and I remember watching the first trailer. I was like, "Oh, that game actually looks surprisingly brutal," which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, it almost looked less brutal.
No,
I don't know. It looked a little. Yeah, it looked a little like fan servicey for me. I don't know. It looked like Nier, but without the like, I guess competent, like what? Not even competency, like the confidence and like, yeah, like better. God, I don't even know what the word I'm thinking of is, but like because Nier wasn't just. Yeah. Like Nier had Nier had other things going for it, like some pretty deep themes. It looks like that, but without the deep themes.
In all honesty, you can't really convey that in a trailer. I played the Nier demo, and I was like, "This game's okay." And then, of course, you play the game.
True.
The game is really good. So I feel like it's one of those things where it's too early to tell, but from an advertising standpoint or a marketing standpoint, I feel like it would be much more difficult to advertise the game as having all like these deep themes and such like that because and even then, let's be honest, Nier's legacy primarily is robot waifu.
Yeah, but that's because I think the game was so good in other aspects. Like, and I feel like this saw Nier, and they were like, "Oh, what if we just did that?" And they kind of missed all the other stuff. And you're right, maybe they are in there. But looking at the game, the team's other games, I don't think so. I think they saw waifu and did that.
That makes sense.
The other big game that got a deep dive was Rise of Ronin. This was a game I wasn't really excited in, and I still don't really know what to make of it. But it kind of looks. I was expecting like a Soulsborne, and it looks kind of more arcadey. Like it doesn't have like that weightiness of Soulsborne's. It like the combat looks like almost like you're smacking things, but it seems kind of like more old school. So I'm a little bit more interested in it. And the traversal looks really cool. You can get like a glider and glide around like towns and stuff. It's definitely doing more. I don't know how good this game will be. I think it'll be like fine. Not like a must play or anything, but it definitely looks like it's offering something a little bit different than like even like Ghost of Tsushima.
And it's made by the people who made Wulong and Neo. Both of them are Soulsborne games, and so I was expecting it to be like that as well. But I'm sure a lot of people have left, but this is the team that did make this is the developers that made the Ninja Gaiden games. So while I'm sure that a majority of those people have left, there may still be some people working there that put in some of that DNA into it.
That's what I was thinking too. It looks like a cross between like Ninja Gaiden and Neo. Like not quite as like fast paced as Ninja Gaiden, but not as like slow and lumbering as like Neo. Yeah, I hope it's good. And then finally, the state of play closed with Kojima showing his like 10-minute trailer for Death Stranding 2, which has the official name Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, which is kind of a dumb name, but whatever. This game looks wild. Like the whole thing with the guitar
It's such a
fight,
dumb
shooting out
game.
lightning, the puppet that's like low frame rate, and like just some of the things they were saying, that the whole game, like just watching the trailer when you've got a ship fly out of a baby's mouth, all of it is just so weird.
That was because I remember the baby was one of the first things, was something in the first game that they showed. And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, yeah, it's the baby. And then it opened its mouth. It's like, what? I was not
Yeah.
expecting that.
I was not either, and it kind of made me uncomfortable and weird. The whole game kind of did. I mean, we'll see. I probably will not play this. I think that Kojima has a little bit too much freedom now. I think he needed. I think the Konami Kojima partnership worked because Konami kind of called him out on his bullshit, and it fell apart when they did that, and he didn't want to listen anymore. But whatever. I'm sure Kojima fans will love it, and it looks. I'm sure it'll be competently made and very good. Just not for me.
Yeah, and I would like to go back and play Death Stranding because the director's cut is supposed to be pretty good.
I did hear that.
He stated that, or sorry, it's not the director's cut. He stated that he doesn't want to call it a director's cut because it implies that the last game wasn't his full vision, and he stated that's not true. It was just the things that we couldn't do some things because of technological limitations. And this was, without those technological limitations, this is the game I would have made. And so I would like to go back and try it, but
yeah, which always was like a cop out to me because all he did was add more combat, which a lot of people complained was a weakness. So I feel like it wasn't a technological issue. It was you didn't really think people would care that much, but they did. Yeah, I feel the same way. I'd like to go play the first one, but I'm not going to play the second without playing the first, and I don't know when I'll have time to play the first. And then finally, once again, Kojima, they brought him out and they announced that he's making a new stealth action game for the PS5, and it's going to blur the line between games and film. And then it zooms out, and it's filmed on the Columbia Pictures lot with the working title of Fizzant. And I don't care about this at all. That is so, even if it's like amazing, that is so far away that, because he said he's not even going to really start working on it until after Death Stranding 2. And then he's also got the Xbox game. Like, that is so far away. Who knows when we'll see that? And so I don't care.
And I know another thing too is people were criticized the Game Awards because they were like, we had nominees thanking their like dead relatives and like dedicating their award to these people, and the music was playing halfway through their speech, whereas Kojima was able to talk like 9 minutes about a game and really say nothing. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like Kojima, you are, if there's a gaming Hall of Fame, you're in there. If there's a gaming Mount Rushmore, there is a good argument you're in there. But at the same time, dude, just chill out for a bit.
Yeah, like, yeah, he kind of does. He's very talented, but he does need, I think, somebody to rein him in. So yeah, that was the state of play. You and I both kind of said everything we wanted to say about it. Nothing really too exciting for both of us, but I'm sure there was a lot there. Which is more than I can say about a lot of these state of plays. So I'm hoping everybody got at least something they were excited for. Definitely some stuff to keep an eye out. But
I'm excited for Stella.
I'm sure. Something that you don't need to keep an eye out for is Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, because that game is doing rough. So the game launched on early access on January 29th.
Well, real quick, Simon, let's go a little bit earlier than that. When Warner Bros. Announced they would not be giving review codes for...
That is true. So they did not give review codes out, so the embargo lifted whenever the game went live for everybody, because there was no embargo, because nobody had it, so IGN and all those people, they had to buy their own copies, which isn't whatever that they had to buy the copies, but it's more... That's a bad sign for a game.
If you make a good product, you're going to want critics to play it so that way they can tell people this is a good product.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was no So apparently there was some alpha testers who played it and they thought it was pretty good. And then they did an open hands-on thing with a bunch of industry.
And they're good because they're alpha testers, not beta testers.
Yeah, I guess.
Just need the sigma testers.
No, it was probably because it was all people who wanted to play Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and that's why they were excited about it. But then they let Games Media play.
Betas.
They were. They let the Games Media people play it, and they were not as positive, and that's why they didn't release codes or anything. But anyway, so the game launched in early access on January 29th. For an extra $30, players could pre-order the deluxe edition, which gave them early access on that date, while the main game launched February 2nd. However, when players logged in for their extra $30, they noticed a bug where the game would auto-complete itself upon login. So basically, as soon as you powered on the game for the first time, the game had already beaten itself, which caused Rocksteady to pull the title after 1 hour from its launch, which people paid $30 for, and I believe their reward was like $20 in-game currency. I know the reward was in-game currency. I forgot to update my list to see exactly how much, but it was not that much, and it was just in-game currency. And things have kind of only gotten worse for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League since then, because since the game is out, anybody can review it. And as of right now, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is sitting at I'm bringing Metacritic right now, 62 on Metacritic with a user score of 3.9. So yeah, pretty sad stuff for Rocksteady, who haven't made a game since Arkham Knight and who made some of the best superhero games of all time. But yeah, Suicide Squad is kind of the disappointment everybody expected it to be, following in the footsteps of Avengers.
Yeah, and I remember reading some people that were praising Rocksteady for not giving review copies, because they were like, oh, well, there have been games in the past where reviewers have given unfair low scores to a game, and then people are like, oh, this game actually is better. So they were saying it's great that Rocksteady's doing that to help pretty much give word of mouth before critics start giving their piece, which is fine. But prior to the game's release, there already was bad word of mouth.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Watch this guy on YouTube. He just makes several shorts. He got a alpha code for the game, and he was like, this game is not good. Even before it was released, he was just like, yeah, this game is not good. And I think the thing that, too, is it was something that even before the game was released, and especially now after the game was released, people were saying a lot of my issues with this game would have been fixed if this wasn't the Arkhamverse. Just because, while for the most part it's not a huge deal, Arkhamverse did have established lore already. It had a Batman that people were attached to. So when Batman's kind of killed off pretty unceremoniously, people are like,
spoilers alert Batman for a game called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League.
Yeah, the game doesn't, spoilers alert, the game doesn't lie. The Suicide Squad does kill the Justice League. And that was something people were disappointed in. They were like, Batman took out all of his villains in a single night. It's kind of like ridiculous that he's beaten pretty much all of these people before in like one night, and he can't do it now. It's like a lot of prep time.
Well, and I think it hurts a lot more because he's voiced by Kevin Conroy in this game, who passed away. So this is a lot of people assumed this was going to be Conroy's last performance. It has since come out that he's got like 2 more projects that were filmed prior to his death. One of which is like the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he's actually reprising his role as Batman from the animated series, because it's Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then there's one other project, which I don't know if they said. So that makes the wound hurt a little less, but you're right. A lot of people are upset that, spoiler alert, Batman does die, and he's kind of killed unceremoniously. And it sucks more because it's Conroy, but that's the least of this game's problems, because even if the story was great, it is still a game that is designed to just pull money from players, just like the Avengers game, and it just doesn't have a satisfying loop to do it.
Yeah, and even then, the first DLC character they announced is Joker, which
Who
I don't
cares?
know if he's from like well, the worst part is
Oh,
he
they
might
said
be
he's from
from
the
a
multiverse. They said he is. Yeah, he's from a
yeah,
different
and
multiverse.
they were like the reason why was because Arkhamverse had a Joker, and even if he didn't die, he was very competent. So they were like, "Crap, we need a Joker that one is new to being the Joker and doesn't have the experience, and two is alive. So we need to pull from an alternate universe." So they couldn't even
Yeah.
do like the Arkhamverse Joker.
And from what I know about the game, pulling from the multiverse does make sense because that was, again, spoilers for this game if you beat it. That was kind of how they were going to get you to keep playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the game, again, we're going into spoilers.
Yep.
They beat Brainiac, and Waller or somebody is like, "Oh, but there's a bunch of other Brainiacs in other universes." So that's the loop you're
Yeah.
supposed to do to get
I
you to keep
believe
playing.
what happens is Lex Luthor is like, "Good job, but there's 13 more Brainiacs, and in order to save the multiverse, we have to save all of them."
Yeah,
And
exactly. So it makes sense, but it's just, again,
yeah,
the least of this game's problems. It's just
yeah,
not great.
and I just
Moving
not a
on.
big multiverse fan.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about Suicide Squad. We gave it more time than it needed. It's a bummer. Because they should have just canceled the game, but they didn't. But instead,
No.
Embracer canceled their Deus Ex game. This is according to Jason Schreier at Bloomberg. The game was in development for 2 years, and the employees working on the game will be laid off, which is 97 people. This is not terribly surprising. Embracer is on fire, and it has been for the past year or so since their $2 billion investment fell through. Deus Ex fans have wanted this game for a while. I only played the like rebooted Deus Ex. Mankind Divided, I think, was the first one.
Human Revolution.
Human Revolution, then Mankind
Yep.
Divided. Okay, I played Human Revolution then, the 360 one. And I really liked it, but so I'd be interested in a new one, but it just doesn't seem to be in the cards while Embracer holds the license.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to go back and play both Human Revolution and the original again because both of them are great games. They are really unique games. One of the original, one of the first games to pioneer that genre of like, hey, you can build your character however you want, and you can then solve problems according to that build. And then Human Revolution came, and it pretty much modernized that aspect. But yeah, so it's something that is a shame, which, man, Deus Ex does not have good luck with publishers, though, does it?
No, not at
Like,
all.
first they had Square Enix, whom they were like, we need to. They were doing like all the bad, as Square Enix does. They were like, we need to add all of the worst aspects of modern gaming into this. So they've made Mankind Divided with microtransactions, and then they're like, this game didn't meet our sales expectations because it's not Call of Duty. So we're gonna cancel the next game in the series. And then now got another chance to work on it, but it was for Embracer Group. So it's a real
Yeah.
shame. Poor Deus Ex. It's a
Yeah,
pretty good series overall.
Well, and the original's like the original's kind of like a classic. It did
The
a lot of
original's
things really
great.
well. Yeah.
Like I said, the original was one of the first games that really was like you can build your character how you want, and it's not just like, oh, this is slightly different than this. Yeah, you build your character the way you want that can be completely different and alter the gameplay, but more importantly, it also was how you tackled non-combat solutions. So you could you could have high hacking skills, open electronic doors, or you could have high agility. So if there's a fence, you could jump over it. Things like that. That was really cool and innovative at the time.
Yeah, things we kind of take for granted now.
Mhm.
So hopefully, at some point Embracer will either collapse and its body will be picked apart for scraps and somebody will get Embracer, or they'll just sell it off.
Mhm.
Another company that will be selling some things that it owns is Microsoft is going to sell certain Xbox titles like Hi-Fi Rush and Indiana Jones and The Great Circle on other platforms, including PlayStation. This is according to Tom Warren at The Verge, and it actually just came out today. It's part of a new strategy by Microsoft to release certain games on certain platforms on a case-by-case basis. So there's not going to be just one, all Xbox games are releasing on PlayStation day and date. It's just they're going to review it and say this is a game we should release here. I think Starfield was another one they talked about probably releasing on PlayStation. But at this time, the exact titles isn't known. And we don't know if these will be day and date on PlayStation or if it'll be at some point after a couple of months. But it is a strategy that Microsoft is going to have going forward, which I think is a good idea to an extent. I think they should probably do like a delayed, like a what's the term that PlayStation uses?
A delayed release?
Yeah, like a timed exclusive where
it
comes out on Xbox for maybe a year, and then after that they can go and release it on PlayStation or Switch or whatever, because you obviously want to make sure that there's enough people invested in your exclusives, and if they want to play those exclusive, they can hop on Xbox first. But at the same time, after that first year, there's probably not a whole lot of people jumping on those titles. Move them over to PlayStation where you can maybe get some sales, since you probably weren't really getting a whole lot of sales when they were on Xbox, since most people would just get them through Game Pass. But what do you think, Noah?
I think that what Microsoft is doing is I think they realize they can't compete directly. So Game Pass
they've said that.
Yeah, and Game Pass is undoubtedly the best deal in gaming right now. It's a phenomenal deal. And so I think that Microsoft could just be like, hey, let's just focus on Game Pass right now. Let's just make it so the Xbox is a Game Pass device. And so you do that, you buy an Xbox if you want Game Pass, you want Netflix for games. And if you don't really want that, well, any game that they fund, they could just give it to another. You could just give it to another console, and then you can buy it that way. And that way, I think that could help with their projections to be like, hey, this is how much money we made, and this is how well this game that we sold elsewhere. This is how well this game sold, to kind of show there we are making money from games, or our games are doing something.
Yeah. And maybe that's their goal too. They want to see what the actual numbers are. Like, you know, how much would we have gotten if we charged $70 for this game instead of just tossing it on our service? You might be right. That might be another aspect of why they want to do it. They just want to, get some more data that they wouldn't have otherwise. So that's it for the news. And now on to our feel-good story of the week. Again, I found this one because Noah was slacking, so I'm gonna take care of it. Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth has become the fastest-selling game in the Yakuza / like a Dragon franchise, reaching 1 million units after only a week. This is according to Sega Sammy, the company who owns Sega and who published the games, which is cool. I'm not terribly surprised, though, because this is Yakuza / Like a Dragon has kind of been building up for a while, so I think there was a lot of, for the last probably 6 or 7 years, I've been hearing more and more about Yakuza, and Infinite Wealth has just kind of exploded, where a lot of people not only are playing it and really enjoying it, but they clearly bought it. So congrats to Ryuga Gotoku. The people who worked on this game, congrats that you guys finally kind of made it big. You've been chipping away at this franchise for literal decades, so glad to see it paying off.
Yeah, and something that I think the most important quote when talking about Yakuza is, what was it? Let me remember. Oh, it was, we're surprised so many foreigners like our game. We made these games specifically for a Japanese audience, and if foreigners like them, that's cool, but we're not necessarily trying to appeal to an overseas demographic. And so that is really cool that they make games that they aren't trying to appeal to outsiders, and yet outsiders like them. And something that I think is really interesting is the movie Shin Ultraman. When it came out in Japan, it got okay reviews, but when it came out in America, it got a lot more positive reviews. And I think it's because when you try not to focus on a global audience, you are allowed to kind of make it more unique, more specialized to your country, which maybe to your country it's less unique, but to overseas communities it's more unique.
Yeah, and I could see that too. And I think there's no benefit to not doing kind of what you said. Make what you want to say, because
Mhm,
if you try to make something that appeals to everybody, you're really not going to appeal to anybody, right? It's just going to be
mhm,
kind of generic and boring and safe.
yeah,
That's, I think, a lot of the problems with like the MCU and the Star Wars movies lately.
mhm,
Whereas if you, like you said, the Yakuza games, people have latched onto them because they like it is so different. They are such their own. There is nothing quite like a Yakuza game,
mhm,
and that's why people are playing them. Because in this industry, it's so easy to play. You know, like Ubisoft games where they're all a dime a dozen, and it's nice to just play something that is fresh and unique. And Yakuza always does
yeah.
that. I've only
And
played Zero. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and going back onto like trying to make it for outsiders, the thing is, Japanese creators, they know Japanese audiences, and Western creators don't know what Japanese audiences. Japanese audiences don't know audiences. Japanese creators don't know Western audiences, and if you try to appeal to a Western demographic, you get, just like we talked about, Deus Ex, Square Enix, they put in a ton of microtransactions in all of their games meant for Western audiences. And the Western devs were like, they're not going to like this. They don't want it. But Square Enix was just like, oh, well, this is what's popular. So clearly, like, this will make us more money.
Yeah,
And yeah, so you gotta make
just make what you
the
want to
pro.
make. Just make the
Exactly.
product you want to make, and if it's good, people will come. Like I was
Exactly.
saying, I've only played Yakuza Zero. I would love to play more of the series, but I
Mhm.
have heard Infinite Wealth builds a decent amount on the last game, like a Dragon side story, and then Yakuza Like a Dragon. So I'll probably sit this one out, but I'd
Yeah.
love to get caught up on the series at some point.
Mhm.
Um,
Which,
oh, is there
to be
anything else you want to
fair,
say about
yeah,
Yakuza?
which to be fair, the last game, Like a Dragon side story, The Man Who Erased His Name, that actually was originally going to be the prologue for Yakuza 6, but they were just having so much fun with it. They're like, hey, let's instead make this just its own little game.
Yeah, which again is totally fine. I think it
Yeah.
worked because they gave it like a different combat style anyway, so it's totally
Yeah.
fine. It totally works. Um, and I think people who are hardcore Yakuza people are gonna they've all been playing them all anyways, so not a big deal. But I am just weird. I'm not playing this game until I
No,
can
that's
play
fair.
through at least Like a Dragon and Man Who Erased
Mm,
His Name.
makes sense.
Um, okay, so before we get into our top 100 games of all time discussion, we do have an update on our game draft because a game I picked, Persona 3 Reload, did come out last Friday, and I checked it, and it was at a 90 or 89, not a 90. It was at
Mhm.
an 89. Let me just make sure it has not gone up or down. It has not gone. Oh, it did go down. It's at an 88 now.
Oh, that's still
So
very high.
it is still very high, which is
Mhm.
good. So I am at 263 points with 3 games released. Noah is at 90 with 1 game released. So Noah's, again, his average is
Oh,
still
no,
pretty.
I also add another game that got released?
No,
Oh, I thought that I had Granblue Fantasy Relink.
you did not. No, you were
Oh,
lucky.
oh, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah. So, yeah, the only game you've had is Tekken 8. So, real quick rundown. My list is Dragon's Dogma 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Persona 3 Reload, Unicorn Overlord, Star Wars Outlaws, a new 3D Mario, Metaphor Refantasio, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Noah's list is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Tekken 8, Black Myth Wukong, Avowed, Helldivers 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, Metroid Prime 4, and Princess Peach Showtime. So the next game that come out for either of us is Helldivers 2, comes out for Noah
Mhm.
on, I think, February 7th. And then I think after that, it is also Noah, your next game, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So at the end of the month, you and I will both have 3 games released. So we'll be able to get a little bit better idea of who's doing better. But yeah, that's where we're at with those.
Oh, Yep.
All right. So now, with that being said, let's go on to our game of the week. Which last week we spun the wheel and we had to do a PC game from the last generation, and so we've settled on Doom 2016. So, as per usual, we are going to be spoiler free for
Real
Doom.
quick, can
What?
I go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You can go to the bathroom and then we'll come back and talk about Doom.
Yeah. Alrighty then.
And we are back. And now that Noah has emptied his bladder, we are going to talk about
I didn't empty my
Doom.
bladder. I emptied my stomach. I just threw up.
Oh, well, that's good. You feel better or you feel worse?
I mean, it's feels nice. So I don't know if you realize this, but if you wait a good amount of time, like between eating, instead of pooping and peeing, you can
Okay.
throw
All
it
right.
up,
Well,
and
that's
all of the
enough. That's
nutrients are
enough.
still
That's
there.
enough.
So it's pretty
Okay.
cool.
All right. We're going to be talking about Doom 2016. Speaking of bodily fluids and things coming up, as per usual, before we get into spoilers, we're going to just say what we like, what we don't like, and who we would recommend this to. So, Noah, what do you like? What do you not like? Very quickly, very briefly, who would you recommend this to? Go.
I'm gonna be honest. I can't think of too many flaws with this game. Like, I feel like maybe sometimes we emphasize like the good parts of the game, but really everything about this. I mean, I guess apparently in the Switch version, reading some of the dialogue and lore is pretty difficult, and it's because there's a lot of good stuff. And I would recommend this to anybody that wants just a fun, adrenaline pumping game.
Yeah. I'm uh I like how every weapon is useful in different circumstances. You can't just rely on one. You do have to kind of switch between them, which I feel like is kind of adds to that run and gun feeling of classic
Mhm.
Doom. What I don't like is that because it takes place in hell, a lot of the environments are kind of samey.
It's fair.
A lot of fire and stone, but again, that kind of comes with the territory.
Mhm.
Um, and I would pretty much recommend this to people who don't like story in games and who just want like a solid shooter, because I couldn't tell you anything that really happens plot wise,
Mhm.
which I guess is another thing I don't like. There is really nothing to keep you going besides it's all gameplay. This is just
Mhm.
if you want a video game, that's what I'd recommend it to.
Mhm.
So with that being said, we're not going to go into spoilers, which again, this game's not very spoiler heavy, so kind of tough to spoil. But for everybody who doesn't want this spoiled, I guess, then I guess we could spoil gameplay mechanics and stuff. We'll see you next week where we talk about some other game that the wheel has not yet decreed. So let's just get the bad out of the way. This game there's no plot, and what plot there is just an
Um,
excuse to murder things.
so yes, but the thing is, this is actually something that I think was really cool. When you play Doom, you don't play for storyline, you play it just to murder everything, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the game does have a plot, but I think something that they did really good was they found ways to minimalize the plot so that it's there for anybody interested.
That is
But
true. It hides
if
it.
you're exactly, and I think that in a game like Doom, that's what it needs to do. Because if you're like, oh, I'm interested in the plot and finding out the history and what happened at this place, you have to look up all the data pads, you gotta like find them. And if you're like, no, I just want to kill things, the game lets you just do that. I think
Yeah.
that this game tells its story better than an overwhelming majority of games. Because what is the opening cutscene? You're strapped to a bed, you rip off these chains, you get a gun, you shoot people. And then you kill a couple guys, you go into an elevator, somebody's like, I did everything because it was the right thing to do. You break the console, it says Doom, and then the game starts. I think that that is an important lesson that some other games, Sonic Frontiers, should take notice on, of saying sometimes people just want to play your game because they want to have fun, And so it's like, let's just do that.
I never once heard Doom Guy talk about the power of friendship, so I think that it's probably not as
Well,
good of a game as Sonic Frontiers, because how
it's
do we
because
know he never once did anything with his friends, and what's the point of doing anything if your friends aren't there by your side?
it's because his friends all died. That was the thing. He was one of the knights, and then they all died, and he was the last one.
Well, maybe if he relied on his friends more, they could have had fun killing demons instead of dying. All jokes aside, yeah, I get what you're saying. For me, you could have the best told story in the world, but if nobody sees it, I think that is a flaw. So, and in this game, it's weird.
Disagree.
In this game, it's weird because it does play to its strengths. I don't think it's necessarily a flaw in this game, but when I was playing it, and like I said, the environments are and I'm just kind of getting all my complaints out of the way, because I know that this is a game we're going to gush about, and that's fine. And I've really enjoyed this game. I'm just getting my complaints out of the way.
Yeah.
In a game where the environments are pretty similar, because they are, which is fine, because they're different enough, but they are pretty similar.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give you that.
I hit a little bit of a wall at some point, and if there was any sort of care I had for characters or plot or anything, I think it would have made it a little bit easier. That being said, I can appreciate them saying, no, this is Doom. Most people are here for the run and gun. We don't need a plot. I think that was the better decision than bogging it down in some story that most people wouldn't care about. And then, like you said, the story is there if you do want to go digging for it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that when I played it. I just was playing it and having fun. So I didn't dig for it. So I didn't know it was there. And I still don't really know what happened because I haven't gone back to this game.
Yeah.
All right. That was my complaints done.
Yeah. And so, like you mentioned, the environments are very same, but the actual battle map designs are really nice.
You're right. The arenas
are varied. While the backgrounds is of course very similar and samey, the actual designs of the map is really cool. And the thing that pretty much most shooters, most games, you walk a bit and then you get to a little action area, and Doom feels more differently than other games, but that's because the battle designs are just so well done. Whereas other games, like we'll say Call of Duty, for example, you walk a bit, then a couple you run down a street, and then there's a couple enemies, and then you fight guys. But Doom, because there's all these platforms and such around, like hallways and such that you can run around with walls to hide, it makes you know, okay, here's where the fight happens. But whereas other games that's something that I feel like could be considered a flaw of like, oh, well now you know it's an immersion breaker. In Doom it works because it's kind of like a random encounter in an RPG. It's like, yep, now time for a fight, and because the combat is so different than just walking around in other shooters, it really works.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying, and I do think it works where the actual arenas are also varied. And when you walk in and you know a fight's coming, but this is Doom, you know there's always a fight coming. It does give you a little bit of preview of what's to come, and like, okay, this is what I can do. And then once the enemies start coming, you learn really quickly where things are. Like, okay, I think I saw some ammo back there, because that's something I do like. I like how the game forces you to keep moving. You can't play this like Halo or COD and like stand still. You do have to keep moving, and you do have to switch your weapons a lot too. The game is not gonna just give you shotgun ammo all the time. You can have favorites, but you are gonna have to get good with everything. And so, like I said, as you're moving around, learning that landscape, kind of memorizing where different things have fallen, trying to figure out how you can get to there while avoiding enemies. It's like a dance, where you're shooting, and that's why I think, a little off topic, but that game Metal Hellsinger worked pretty well, because it was kind of just Doom 2016 that then they added like a soundtrack to
A
that you
rhythm
had to keep.
mechanic.
But
Well,
it's kind of
okay,
like,
you
but you
rephrase that. Rephrase that. You said they added a soundtrack to it. I'm gonna give you one chance to go back and
okay,
say that differently.
they added rhythm to it, because yes, Doom has good music.
It has
I will
very
say
good
Metal
music.
Hellsinger has maybe better music, but that's a little unfair because that is a bigger part of Metal Hellsinger, and Doom has better gunplay
And
because that's a bigger part of Doom.
Metal Hellsinger also has like actual metal bands who crafted the
No,
songs.
that's what I'm saying. It's unfair to hold it, but
Yeah.
that doesn't make it. It might be unfair, but that doesn't make it not true.
Yeah.
But back to what I was saying. Yeah, I'm sure that they got that idea from playing Doom 2016, because Doom 2016 is already like 3/4 of the way there.
Mhm.
Is, like I said, that dance of shooting, moving, jumping, picking up ammo, switching weapons. It's all there, and Doom 2016 does it really, really well.
Yeah. And there's something I read that was like Doom is the best Nintendo game that Nintendo never made, and it's because Nintendo's design philosophy, for the most part, is they come up with a gameplay mechanic or gimmick, and then the entire game revolves around that. And Doom's gameplay mechanic is the glory kills, which, for those of you who need a refresher, the glory kills are when an enemy is weak enough, you can run up and do a melee attack, and the melee attack usually involves ripping off a limb or something, and then afterwards you gain health and ammo as a reward. And so the entire game feels like it's both encouraging you to do that, but at the same time putting obstacles in your way from doing that. And that is why it's the greatest Nintendo game Nintendo never made.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It's, to your point, and kind of what I was saying too about the game kind of being a dance. The glory kills are, that's why you have to do that, because you do have to kind of get in close and you are incentivized, and so because of that you've always got to keep moving. There's no point in blasting an enemy from across the map. You'd much rather weaken him, get in close, and finish him off, so then you get that health boost. And if you can string those things together really fast, you can almost be invincible, where you're just always picking up health boosts. Which is why it's really cool to watch people really good at Doom play, because it is just, the level of proficiency is insane.
And it's just so satisfying pulling them off.
It is,
Just
yeah, it
watching
is.
the reward for pulling it off successfully is being like Doom Guy ripping off a thing's arms and shoving it down its throat. That's how you reward a player and make them feel strong, even when they're faced against overwhelming odds.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't have a whole lot to say about this game now that I'm thinking about it, because it is good. But what else do you say besides it's really good? Like, I mean, the music is really good. The gameplay is obviously very, very good. I mean, I guess enemies, they do all the enemies kind of building off of the way the guns work too. The enemies are all very different. You have to, and so when you do get kind of closer towards the later levels, or I guess when you get to the later levels and you get all these different enemy types thrown at you, it's another thing that you are juggling, which does make the game even better in terms of utilizing all the tools in your arsenal. Like, these enemies are going to rush at me, so I need to make sure I have my shotgun ready for them. This enemy is going to keep its distance, so I need to have my rifle ready to blast him from across the arena. Things like that. They did a unmatched job of pairing the enemy types with the weapons to make sure you always can handle everything that's thrown at you. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that you know what you're doing. You can't just run in and, oh, I've got my shotgun, so I'll just try to get in close to everybody. No, you should. There's a reason you have a handgun and a rifle and all these other things. You need to make sure you use all of them depending on the situation.
Yeah, and We'll go ahead. I talked about this already, but I do really want to make a note because I feel like they do such a good job with it. The game's intro is really, really good. The game was released when every game was trying to have a story, every game was trying to be like this big narrative thing, and Doom just completely broke that. They said, "You're here to rip and tear, that's what you're gonna do." And the second that the game starts, you're thrusted into the action, and you're against enemies that I don't even think they can really hurt you, but you don't really know that at the time. You just see, oh, these are
Yeah, you
definitely
feel like
enemies.
it.
I got them. And yeah, you have the little pistol, you shoot them, then they start glowing. You're like, hey, why are they glowing? You walk up, and then it tells you to press a melee button, and you dismember them. So it does a very good job of teaching you the basics right out of the get go. And then after the little intro, the game starts. I believe you get a shotgun then, and that's when it kind of gets like your first little battlefield, which I always love it when a game can tell you how to play just from very minimal writing and very little dialogue. It's something that was very, very common back in the days before, in like the NES, SNES, before plots were a major thing. But the fact that Doom is one of those 3D games that is able to tell you exactly how to play without a dialogue featured tutorial, I think is really awesome.
Yeah, I I agree. It does do
Mhm.
a really good job of. There is no like press R trigger to shoot. You
Mhm.
just kind of know, and you'll figure out things pretty quickly in those first little couple encounters, and that's part of the
Mhm.
fun of the game is figuring out. Oh, okay, that's how I do this. It's all learning, and that aspect of learning carries through it the entire game. Where, like I said, you're picking up new weapons and you're figuring out their strengths and weaknesses, and the
Mhm.
game kind of teaches you early on, like, hey, you're gonna be learning this whole game, so get used to it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's really all I got to say about this one, actually.
Okay. I
um,
will say,
you
and
can
another
kind of
thing
carry this one
too.
because you
Yeah.
you love this game. I like it. I think it's very good. But this is kind of your show, so you can kind of lead the discussion this time.
Well, it's not. It's your show. You're the one who does the intro every time.
Okay, but this time I'm handing it over to you.
Yeah. So now, and I'm glad you did that because now I'm going to talk about something you, um, that you will have no idea what I'm talking about, and in fact, I'm sure you forgot about it. I'm going to talk about the multiplayer a little bit. And this
Oh
was
yeah, I didn't
released
play
back at a
multiplayer at
time.
all.
Yeah, this was released back at a time where multiplayer was still a very big thing, and it was definitely a really fun change of pace. I believe the main campaign mode was more important than the multiplayer, but the multiplayer was a great little arena multiplayer mode. Of course, it was during this time where there was a lot of shooters and they were trying to be Call of Duty. Doom wasn't one of them. It was trying to be more like Halo. Quake obviously was the biggest inspiration for its multiplayer mode. And yeah, it was fun. I wouldn't say it's as noteworthy as the single player campaign, but the multiplayer mode was just a fun little time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I never even touched the multiplayer, and I don't think I ever saw anybody on like my friends list playing the multiplayer. So if
Hmm.
anything, that was maybe a detriment to the
Underrated
game.
aspect. Yeah.
Like maybe if they weren't going to dedicate the time to it, they maybe shouldn't have done it. And it's weird that they did because, well, I guess 2016. I feel like it was like 360 era where games had like unnecessary multiplayer. I feel like in
Hmm.
2016, that's when we were kind of moving away from
Although
that.
for
And
a
so it's
first
weird
person
that this.
shooter,
That's true. It was a first person shooter. So I guess most of the time they were like, well, we've got to throw it in there. Why not? So I guess it makes sense. But yeah, I think it was definitely kind of an afterthought. They definitely focus more on the campaign, which is fine.
yeah, because Doom isn't Quake. If you make a Quake game, you need to focus on multiplayer. Doom is a single player game, so
Yeah,
you need to
yeah,
focus on the single player.
yeah. Nope, I agree, and I think that
Mhm.
was, if they had to pick one, they did the right one, but
Yep.
maybe they should have just focused on that one.
I disagree. I think everything turned out great, honestly, no matter what.
Okay, well, I
All
agree to
right.
disagree, I guess.
Yep. I mean, that's really all we can do by this point.
uh, yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Got anything else?
Um, Not really. I think we pretty much covered all of it. It was really great. I guess we can talk a little bit more about the music. Mick Gordon does the soundtrack for the game, and it is incredible. It's just hardcore, adrenaline pumping nonstop. And when the thing does slow down, like from the walking parts, it doesn't feel like it's going flat. It feels like it's building up to something else. And that's just awesome.
Yeah, I do remember the music being pretty cool, but it kind of just fits in the background of the game where it's, yeah, it is explosive, it's rockish. it
Yeah,
does fit
heavy
the
metal,
game.
if anything.
It's, yeah, it enhances it.
Hmm.
I think this game has enough going for it where if the music was a letdown, I just don't think it would be noticeable because so much is happening on screen.
Hmm.
But the music definitely does kind of,
No,
it's,
it's
I guess the best compliment I can give the music is that despite all the craziness happening on screen, you can still, you still notice it. It
hmm
doesn't fall by the wayside. It is good enough to where it matches everything going on.
hmm yeah, it's yeah, it just he knew what the assignment was and he delivered.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I know your answer. You think Doom's getting on the list?
Yeah, at first I wasn't really planning on it, but just saying the fact that I was like, I can't really think of too many problems with this game. I feel like, yeah, it's got to go on the list somewhere.
I don't know. I'm more on the fence. I I think for me, it does a lot of things really well, but it doesn't, like, I'm trying to think, like, even when I think about my favorite first person shooter campaigns,
Hmm.
I don't know if Doom would even make the top 5.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, like I
So, like,
think, what?
I'm just thinking, like, besides the Metroid games, what other like campaigns do you think are better than it?
Halo, Combat Evolved.
Okay, but we put both Halos on the list.
Yeah, but we put Halo
we
2 mostly on the list because of its multiplayer. And that's the
That's a
thing.
good point.
And I don't know if Doom 2016 really reaches that same level. Like, its campaign is really good, but I don't think.
Well, I think you need to also think about, like I said, the writing. I think that is something that more games need to take into consideration is understanding your audience and not having a story that's there for people that want it, but is out of the way for others. And I think that's why it's like this is something noteworthy.
I mean, but it's not like
'Cause-
they did like some new thing. They just added a bunch of lore in the background and data
And
disks and stuff.
they didn't do anything new, and yet games are still have just these long intro cutscenes, and it's like, okay,
But
that's
we
cool.
consider that a flaw. It's not like those games with long intro
Wait,
cutscenes.
yeah, that is a flaw. If a game's like, I don't care about your game yet, like, let's have some fun first, and then we can start segueing into more cutscenes. And that's the thing. Doom knew the assignment. They were like, what, you bought this game because you wanted to kill things? Well, shit, here you go. And that's great.
Yeah, but that doesn't change. Uh, I guess, but if you put something in your game that nobody's gonna see, is that really a strain. I can't talk to it at all. So then, okay, I guess my issue with this is twofold. If the story is as good, if the story is as good in this game as you're saying,
it's not. Hold on a second. I'm not saying it's a good story. I'm saying that
but then who cares?
An interesting little. I'm saying that
there is it's not that good of a story, who cares?
I mean, a lot of people do. There are a lot of people who like this game, and then it's like
let me say my issue.
All right, go ahead.
My issue with this is two things. One, if it's that good and I didn't see it, that is frustrating to me. The second thing, if it's not that good, why put it in at all?
Okay, I will say this. So first of all, it's not that it's bad, but it does give you background information on a lot of what's going on, and also helps you understand what Doom Guy's doing and why all this situation's happening. Secondly, Halo is a universe that has multiple novels, so then it's like, if they ever introduce something in a game and then it's like, oh, well, this was introduced in like a book, it's like, everything you need to know in Doom is in Doom. And then maybe on your second playthrough, because you're like, man, I want to play Doom again. You go in, and now you're exploring a little because it's your second playthrough, and then you start reading all the stuff. Because, like, yeah, you pick up things, you just don't read them because you're like, I want to go back to killing things. And it's like, when you really like a game, you spend more time learning about the lore and dedicating to things outside of just the standard combat and story.
Okay, and I guess all that makes sense, but to me that's no different than like what Dark Souls does.
Yeah, Dark Souls does great. Dark Souls is great.
But that's my point. So even Doom doesn't do that. Like, it's not that original. It's not like you were saying, oh, no games do this. Well, Dark Souls does, and Dark Souls did it before Doom.
But isn't Dark Souls also the exception that proves the rule?
How is it an exception?
Because, like, all right, so Doom does it, Dark Souls does it. What other games do it? Like, I can tell you games that don't do it.
Well, yeah, I could tell you games that don't do it, but that's just because that's kind of where we're at now. Like, that's just...
Yeah.
But I think there's plenty of games that are focused just on gameplay, and that's fine that Doom wanted to focus on it. I mean, I think we're kind of losing it. If you really want Doom 2016 on the list, we can put it on the list.
What's Dead Space at?
Dead Space is at an 83.
Okay, I want it at 82.
I actually think I think Dead Space is a better game than Doom 2016.
I think Doom 2016 is better than Dead Space Remake. Dead Space Remake had some cool ideas, but I felt like Doom was more unique and more well designed.
Dead Space Remake got on the list as like emblematic of both Dead Space and Dead Space Remake.
Okay, that's somewhat fair.
Because Dead Space 1 was kind of like revitalized the horror genre when it was dying.
That's fair. So, but now we're getting off topic.
Look, if you want Doom 2016 on the list, I don't think I do. If you want it on the list, I'll put it at 100 and we can move Star Fox 64 up to 99. Maybe. Now, here's the thing. If it's on the list, it's on the list for a while. I'm not saying it'll stay on there forever, but I'm also not saying it can't move higher. I don't know where it's going to go, but I cannot put Doom 2016 above Star Fox 64, a game that does almost a lot of the same things we're talking about Doom 2016, but it did it like 20 years before, and it has Slippy and Falco in it.
So what you're saying is, because it has Slippy, Doom is better.
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying...
So it's... If you said Peppy and Falco, it'd be like, okay, that's a good point. But you specifically said Slippy, which hurts your argument more than it helps.
Slippy's not as bad as people say. Falco's worse. Falco's just a dick.
I was saved by Fox. How swell.
Well, yeah, Falco's a dick. Yeah. Slippy's better. Slippy's at least always appreciative.
Slippy's appreciative. He's just bad at his job.
Yeah, I mean, he's not great, but anyway,
All right.
do you want
And
to put
I
Doom at
think
100 and I'll put Star Fox
yeah,
64 at
and I
99?
feel
Okay.
like Doom is a very good 100 game because there's a lot of good things, and I feel like there are things that I feel like it is a good like flat, a good goalpost. Like, well, how does its multiplayer compares to Doom? How's the campaign? How's the story? Da 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 da.
But all those, I feel like that is not a good litmus test, because if a game has decent multiplayer, it's going to be just as good, if not better, than Doom, and it will most likely have a better story
Yeah,
than Doom if it has a story at
exactly.
all.
And if
So
it's a
it's like,
game like
the criteria: does it have multiplayer that works? Yes. Does it have a story? Yes. Oh well, it does both of those things better than Doom.
well, if we talk about like Condemned 2, I believe that was the one with multiplayer. That game's multiplayer wasn't good, so it's like, how's it compared to Doom's? Like, how's the multiplayer in Condemned compared to Doom? It's like, well, it was worse than that. It's like, okay, that's definitely then a downside.
I would be very surprised if Condemned 2 makes it on our list. But Doom 2016 did. So Doom
Yep.
2016 is at number 100. Star Fox 64 moved up to 99. Yeah. So congrats to Doom 2016. I don't feel great about it, but I don't feel awful about it. Like I said, we'll see how this goes once we start filling out this list. We've still got quite a lot of empty spots on here. All right, Noah, before we get out of here, what you been playing?
I've been playing a lot of Tekken 8 and then occasionally Star Wars.
Nice. Do you want to elaborate on either of those?
Yeah, so Tekken, I really like fighting games. I have never really played a Tekken before. And when I started it, I absolutely hated it. I was like, this game is bullshit. Why does everybody besides me have lows? I don't get it. This is just bad. And I would play the game, like, again the next day. And that was the thing that was really frustrating me. I was like, I'm going to play until I win a match. And then I'd be playing it a lot longer because I wasn't winning any matches. But now I'm getting to the point where the game's been out for a while. The ranks are everybody's kind of falling into their rank. And so now I'm going against more people who are at a similar skill level to me. I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to understand how to play Tekken a little more.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Did you want to talk about Star Wars at all?
Not really, just because I've talked about it so much that in the past, it's a game that I've been playing for several weeks now. It's like, yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it. There's not really too much to say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'll talk a little bit more about it because I actually beat it on Friday night. I really enjoyed it. I kind of started to lose steam, and I was like, well, maybe I don't like this game as much as I did for a while. But then, kind of those last couple story missions, a lot happens, and I got really invested, and it pushed me all the way through. And I was pretty happy with the way everything in the game played out. And the last couple of levels are all pretty fun. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. On top of that, I did start Final Fantasy VI on my Switch. I kind of just was wanting to get back into like a JRPG phase because I haven't played one in a while. And I had Final Fantasy VI on there, so I started that. I'm still pretty early on, but that game is so linear. Like, I really like it so far. I'm invested in everything going on, and the combat's great. But that is like, people are like, oh, 13's super linear. 6 is like, it's might as well just be a hallway. There's not a whole lot of room to go around and explore yet. Maybe it gets better. Maybe it opens up later, and maybe I'm earlier in the game than I thought. But I'm quite a few hours in now, and it's still pretty linear.
Yeah.
But it's funny that I was like, oh, I want to play a JRPG, so I'll play Final Fantasy VI. Because the reason I wanted to play a JRPG was because everybody kind of talking about Persona 3 Reload. And then my fiance went and bought me Persona 3 Reload. So I actually have been playing that all weekend.
Oh,
and
nice.
That's a good video game. That's a really good video game. It's I love Persona 5. That's the only one I've played, but it's one of my favorite games ever. This one I don't think I'll like as much. I'm still pretty early on, but I don't think I like the way the dungeons are set up as much, where it's like, do you know anything about this game, Noah?
I know Alex Lee voices the main character.
Okay, well, there you go. So unlike Persona 5, where you've got like specific dungeons for each level, kind of.
Person, yeah.
Yeah. This is basically you're part of a team investigating this phenomenon.
Oh, that's
where
cool.
this giant tower. So you're exploring this tower, and you can do it at like kind of however you feel like it, but you'll hit blocks, so you can only move so far into the tower until every like full moon. Then every full moon, there's like a story thing, and you fight a boss, and then you can go further explore the tower. So it's kind of cool because it gives you more freedom to attack the like dungeons how you want, but at the same time, it means that they're not as interesting because it's also all procedurally generated. So it's not quite as exciting, but it does make, I will say it does a better job of you feeling like you are exploring a dungeon as opposed to Persona 5 where you are kind of like doing this quest almost. But I also don't know if I like the characters as much or the music, but I do like how there is like an overarching plot and it's going to carry the whole game through as opposed to Persona 5, which is like figments. But overall, it's still really good. It's just fun to return to that style of game. So yeah, really enjoying that. We'll see if I beat it because it's going to be a long one. And I just realized that we never spun our wheel after our discussion. So I'm going to spin the generation wheel. I shuffled it. So if we get PS5 or PS4, I'm respinning it.
Okay, that's fair.
We got PS4, so I'm going to respin it because that's not very exciting. I'm going to shuffle it and respin it. I don't know why this thing does it.
It just loves the modern stuff. It's like, man, nobody wants to play those old games. It's like nobody wants to play old games like GoldenEye or
that generation
Mass Effect
again.
2.
Okay, if I get this again, this is what we're doing.
No, we need to find out what's.
We got handheld. So now I'm going to spin. I'm going to spin the special handheld wheel. So because I got handheld, I get to spin the handheld wheel, which is Game Boy / Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and Nintendo 3DS. I considered adding Vita and PSP, but I feel like there's like only like 1 or 2 games that are actually good enough to potentially make the list on the Vita or PSP.
Yeah,
and most of them have been ported to PS4 anyway, so...
Yeah, that's fair. The only really good Vita game I know of is Persona 4 Golden.
And Peace Walker.
Which is just the enhanced version of a PS2 game.
Yeah, so we can just deal with Golden when we get to PS2, and then same with Peace Walker. Peace Walker we can just talk about if we get like PS3 or something, and we want to talk about Peace Walker. So I don't think much was lost. So we are going to be talking about a Game Boy Advance game.
Oh, all right. That sounds fun.
Yeah, that'll be kind of cool. We haven't done a handheld game, so so next week we will. What?
We haven't really done any game that uses less than 64 bits, as far as I'm aware, either. Really.
Yeah, I think you're right. Have we really not done any like Super Nintendo games?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay.
And that was why we did the wheel, because we wanted more variety.
That is true. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm glad. Yeah, that'll be fun. We can figure out what we'll do, but we will do a Game Boy Advance game next week. All right, Noah. What are you gonna plug before we get out of here?
Yeah. So, you know the film Air Bud?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug Air Bud.
Yeah. Did you just watch Air Bud or something, or you want people to go out and watch Air Bud?
No, but it's like it's just one of those things where it's like if you show a Gen Alpha person the poster for Air Bud and tell them, yeah, this was a movie, I feel like there's a very good chance they won't believe you. Like, that's fair. Just look at the poster for Air Bud. It doesn't look like a real film.
No, you're not wrong. It does look like a fake movie.
And even just the plot itself doesn't seem like a real film. It seems like the most fakest film ever. And I think that's why I appreciate Air Bud so much.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I don't think you're wrong. It does everything about Air Bud, especially the fact that I think there's multiple sequels, some of which are straight to DVD. Yeah, it's not just Air Bud, it is the Air Bud franchise.
Yeah, and I think Airbud Spike's Backs poster also looks really fake as well.
That name sounds fake.
It is the most fake looking poster ever, even more so than the original looks like a movie poster that would be in like a comedy show, whereas Airbud Spike's back does not look like that. It looks too poor of quality. It it's oh man. But yeah, there's multiple Airbud films, and when the child got too old to play in it, because that was the thing, it was a little boy, and then when he started getting too old to play a kid, his character moved to college and it focused on his sister. And yeah, so that's Airbud.
All right, everybody go watch Airbud, I guess. All right, I'm going to get us out of here. God, man, those movies are weird.
I watched all of them.
Did you? Whatever. Thank you to Pecan Pie on Upbeat for our intro and outro songs. Thank you to Zach Robinson for our logo, and thank you to Gabrielle Esti for our editing. If you liked this, please follow and or subscribe, and consider leaving a rating and review so more people can find us and we can grow a little bit more. You can find other episodes of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. I know Google Podcast is going away at some point, so I will get them over onto YouTube eventually. If you want to send us an email, you can do so at gamedisc.podcast@gmail.com. We will read it on the air. You can send us questions, suggestions, or anything you want. And we will see you all next week when we discuss a Game Boy Advance game. It's going to be a good time. Also, there's a little bonus thing at the end of this episode. Noah, it's whatever. If you just want an extra couple of minutes, you can listen to Noah watch the trailer for Death Stranding 2 on the beach. But if you don't want to, you can end this episode after the song. Goodbye!
Bye!
Okay, so here's just a little bonus thing. During the PlayStation State of Play, when Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding 2 on the beach played its like 9-minute trailer, I just watched it. Well, I won't say too much about it, but so this is just going to be Noah live watching the trailer for the first time as a little bonus for everybody, so you can get his raw, uncut, and unfiltered thoughts. So Noah, whenever you're ready, click the play button.
All right, let's go ahead and do this.
Death Stranding 2 on the beach.
Okay, it's a little loud, but I guess that's just my video thing.
That sounds like a personal problem.
Oh, okay. So, I didn't play Death Stranding 1.
I didn't either.
Just a heads
so
up.
Both of us have no context for this, which kind of makes it wilder.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so it's okay. So I like the mask thing. That's cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. And okay. That's
what
nice.
part are you at?
I'm at like the little octopus part. He like clips it. Oh, he's like pulling the hairs out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. That makes sense. Wait, what? Alright, so oh, okay, cool. So
what?
The person's alive now. The person just opened their eyes, and now is this the baby? Okay, yep, that's a baby. Oh, okay, did not expect the drone. Yep. Oh, shit. Okay. Okay, so it seems like now it's kind of normalized.
For now. Did you get to the
Yeah.
part with the puppet?
I'm at the part where they're just going through the base.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is that a? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the hand gloves.
The hand gloves, of course. The famous
Yeah.
hand gloves from Death Stranding.
Yeah. No, that Death Stranding one had the baby. This one they have the hand thingies. Oh, hey, he's
The hand.
normal again. Okay. Do you get hands in this game as well? Wait.
Hands? I think that, yes, Sam Bridge or whatever his name is has hands.
Well, no, but like he gets like the neck hands thingies.
Oh,
Everybody else
probably.
seems to have it. What? Oh.
He probably gets neck hands.
That's a great God of War reference.
What?
The guy's like, really, Sam, your buttocks when he puts them by, because that's where
Oh,
Mimir
yeah.
was.
The puppet is kind of cool.
Oh, cool. There's walking in this game.
Yeah, you do play it
I know that was.
sometimes.
I mean, well, I knew that like that was a big thing in the first game was walking. That's kind of cool.
What?
Just the flooding looks really nice.
Oh, yeah. No, it looks like it is a pretty looking game. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Moon's big. Okay. Oh no. There's a car. Oh, vehicles.
I'm honestly surprised you're not more like, this thing is wild. I was watching it. I was like, what the fuck is
Oh,
this?
not me. I don't know. This is fairly normalized for me. Like, I think the craziest part was the cat at the beginning.
For me, it was
Wait.
the weird, like, low frame rate puppet.
Oh, the low frame rate pup was cool, but now,
That is,
I mean, oh man, his brother's back in the game.
yeah, that
Who's
was
that
my
voice
reaction.
actor?
It's you can't tell by looking at him. It's what's his face, the guy who it's Troy Baker.
Okay, that's who it was. I was like, I know this voice. Who is it? Yeah. Okay, it's cool. Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it definitely looks more interesting than the first game because the first game, at least from the trailers, I was just like, "What is this game?"
I mean, that's how I feel about the second one too, though. It seems like a fake trailer.
Yeah, the puppet is really cool.
The
I
puppet
like the
is the
puppet
best
a
part.
lot. I also like the hands.
The
The
hands
hands are
kind of,
cool.
I don't
Oh
like
no,
the
he's
hands.
got the
They kind of
baby.
they make me uncomfortable.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of the point of this.
Sure it is.
Huh? Who's Lou?
I don't know.
Whoa.
Hmm.
Oh, this game's cool.
What? Oh, the
Yo,
fight?
this game's badass.
Are you at the
Yo,
part with the guitar?
this game's tight. Bro, what is this?
That was my reaction too.
It looks sweet. Bro. Oh, baby. So, like, I don't remember, like, anything about Death Stranding, but if I remember correctly, like, the thing about the fetus was it, like, allowed you to, like, get back if you died. So do you just now, like, take the baby
I
if you
don't know.
die?
I guess. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But yeah, so what'd you think?
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, I'm still watching, but it's just boring right now.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much, if you got to the part with the
I
fight
mean, it's
scene, you pretty much saw everything.
yeah, yeah. No, the fight scene was I mean, the fight scene was cool.
That was kind of
Fight
rad.
scene was pretty cool. So
I just
yeah, that
the
was
whole
definitely the
thing.
highlight of the trailer.
Yeah, the whole thing for me, I was just
I
like,
don't
what
know.
is going on?
I don't know. Something about it's just like it wasn't like. I think you may have hyped it up a bit more
Maybe it is.
then.
Yeah, I maybe it's because I was just like I said. Maybe it's because I've played like all of Kojima's games except for Death Stranding. But the whole time I was watching it, I was like, "What is like?" It was just wild to me. But if you want some really
Yeah.
exciting news, as of 30 minutes ago, Taylor Swift announced a new album.
Oh, cool. We should put that as our good news story.
We could. It has to do with video games.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Well,
that
that's it.
was
That was your little bonus. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.